As we continue into Hour 3 this morning, remembering Titans legend and iconic 104.5 The Zone host, Titans radio color commentator Frank Wycheck this morning here on RKW. Ramon Foster joining us from Miami, where he'll be on the sidelines tonight with Titans radio. Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, Reed Smith making the show happen. My name is Will Bowling, and joining us now, the man who shared a microphone and a show with Frank Wycheck, he is Kevin Ingram with us here on the show this morning. Kevin, thank you so much for doing this. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Will. Yeah, very, very happy to come on and talk about Frank. We had a lot of fun. We worked together on that show for 14 years and kind of caught the tail end of his career as far as covering the Titans and saw the miracle play and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's very much a pleasure and honor to come on and talk about 89.
Well, Kevin, it is hard to sum up a man like Frank Wycheck in just the time that we have. But how will you remember him, the player who brought that blue-collar mentality to the field every day, but as a friend and as a broadcaster as well?
Certainly he was a great player, 505 catches during his career, and I know you guys have talked about the miracle play. I caught a little bit with David Beauclair a little bit earlier. But for me, more than the football playing part of it is sort of the friend and the fellow broadcaster, excuse me, and show host. We worked together with Mark Howard, and Paul Bible was our original producer back in 2004 when we started the show. But I just had a lot of fun working with Frank all those years. And, when we started, and I didn't know Frank very well, I'd covered the team, I can say, the last few years that he played there. But and I met him or interviewed him a few times. But really working with somebody like that on a daily basis, I didn't really know what to expect. And a guy who's, been a great football player, now transitioning to a broadcasting role, I wondered if I could find some, excuse me, a little bit of a morning breath here, or morning voice here, find some common ground with Frank. And I found out very quickly that we had a lot of things in common, our kind of shared love of old rock bands and Star Wars movies and golf and wrestling and all sorts of stuff like that. And so we bonded pretty quickly, and we just had a lot of fun messing with Mark and getting into big arguments. And I was kind of the referee for those things when him and Mark would go at it. So that part was fun. But, yeah, I found out very quickly that Frank and I had a lot in common, and a lot of it is we're exactly the same age. He's 2 weeks older than me, so we'd experienced a lot of the similar things, even though we lived in different parts of the country at similar parts of our lives. So, it was fun just to get to know him and be friends with him and work with him for all those years.
Kevin Ingram joining us now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Kevin, when it came to what made him such a popular radio personality, because that's a lot of the things we're seeing and hearing today from the fans is they loved him as a player, maybe even loved him more, when they get to listen to him every morning waking up. But what made him such a transcending, radio personality from the field?
Yeah, Kayla, I think a lot of it is they felt like he was relatable. For as great of a football player as he was one of those guys who he always felt like he was on the verge of being cut from the team, and I think he sort of carried that persona into his radio career too, and people felt like they could relate to that. And some of the things that I described a minute ago, of him liking just sort of normal stuff that average people like, I think people felt like they connected with him in that way. But I think too is he had a great respect for just your average blue collar person that's going to a job or stuck in traffic or all those things. I think he could relate to that, and people could relate to him in that way. And I think people just got a kick out of him trying to do goofy stuff on the show. We'd have donut eating contests, and we had the big walk-off. I'm sure we'll probably talk about that in a minute. But, he would go out and try to hit off fast-pitch softball pitchers, or when the Goodlettsville team made the Little League World Series, we did a thing out at Davidson Academy one morning where he tried to hit off Brock Byers, who was the big star on that team, and that didn't go especially well. That was pretty funny. But I think just sort of the everyman part of Frank is what connected so well with listeners.
And you knew one of us was going to ask about that walk-off. Tell us where, that started and just how fun. We're still talking about it to this day. Why did people just connect and find that so great?
Well, it started with Mark trying to get into better shape to begin with. And so Mark had been walking a lot and lost some weight and was feeling good. And so he gets to talking a little on the show and talking about how, I've been walking a lot, so we'll go out into the track and I'll walk you into the ground, was his famous words that he told Frank. And so we set this whole thing up where we do this walk-off at the downtown YMCA, just, right there on Broadway downtown. And so we get down there, and we set the whole thing up, and the contest was going to be like during the 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock hour or whatever, and they were going to see who could walk the most laps, or I don't even remember what the contest was. But very quickly, Mark bowed out, and his, I don't know, he had a hamstring problem or something, and Frank's just up there running laps around the track. And, they had the track kind of goes around the top there at the Y. And so, it just became stuff of legend after that. And we played clips of Mark, saying, I'm going to walk you into the ground. And we had Tiger Woods clips of saying his glutes weren't firing. And it just became a whole thing. It was awesome. It was so funny to sit and watch. Like Paul Bible and I, we just sat back and watched the whole show. Kaharski was there too. And it was so funny. Like it just became a classic bit on the show.
It's great.
Kevin Ingram with us this morning. We're talking about Frank Wycheck. Kevin, I have to ask you guys, because it's part of Frank and you guys' legacy, man, but the chemistry that you guys had in the morning to get on each other and just also the transparency that Frank brought along with that, with, the stuff that he dealt with personally, and how did you guys just really catch all of that in a bottle into creating what you guys had in the morning?
Yeah, Ramon, that's a great question, because Frank was pretty open about a lot of his struggles, with the concussions and things he had during his playing career. And certainly, to be honest, you could see how it affected him after football, and watching him over about a 10-year span and just watching his health and those things and how he progressed. It was difficult. To me, it was difficult to watch at times, but he was very honest about it, and we were very respectful of that. For as much as we all joked around together, there was a lot of love between the folks on that show, and we cared deeply about Frank and his health, and just wanted all the best for him. But we just tried to do the best we could to be respectful of him and some of the things that he was going through post football. But we just found a way to connect with him and talk about his football experiences, and the miracle play was always front and center. And he did such a great job of telling stories from his career and fun things that happened. And Ramon, I know you probably have a lot of these same stories from your playing days, just little things that happened during games, not necessarily the big plays in the games, but the stuff on the side. One of the stories that I always thought was the funniest was when the Titans and Raiders were playing the AFC Championship game, and I believe it was 2002. They were out in Oakland, and at halftime, LL Cool J was the halftime performer, and I guess they didn't get everybody off the field fast enough before the Titans wanted to go back out and get ready to start the second half. There got to be some jawing between some members of the Titans and LL Cool J, and Frank's telling this whole story about how it all went down. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. But those stories to me are the parts that I really enjoyed hearing about with his career, and just stuff that went on in the locker room and little games they played, and certainly his respect for guys like Bruce Matthews and Steve and Eddie and all those players during that time frame. I just thought that stuff was really cool.
Did you, as far as you guys' time on the station, did you understand how big you guys were getting or was at the time too? Because me coming in after you guys, I didn't fully understand it. I do now, of course, been around Mike Keefe and Rhett Bryan and the whole crew. But did you guys realize just how big and powerful you were as a morning show?
I don't know that we did. I don't know that I did for sure. Maybe those other guys did, but to me, it was just always it was a fun thing, and I went in every morning and we did our thing and went home. I don't know that I ever really realized how many people we were connecting with until years later, and I still have people come up to me every day and said they listened, or I'll have people that are in their 20s say, "Yeah, I grew up listening to you on the radio," and I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that. Or people that say they were inspired to get into broadcasting by our show and that. But I really don't know that I did know or maybe fully appreciate what was going on when you're in the moment, because you guys know you're doing a show and it's a job, and you try to be professional in those things. And then years later, I think it really hit me, especially Mark passed away in July of 2022, and now losing Frank too. I think it's made me reflect a lot on that time and just how much fun it was, and what all we were able to achieve while we were on that station.
Kevin Ingram, our guest this morning here on RKW. Kevin, we mentioned a Bud Adams statement when Frank Wycheck, Steve McNair, and Eddie George all went into the Titans-Oilers Ring of Honor together in 2008. And I'm sure you remember as well that the original mentality of what it meant to be a Titan was created in part by Frank, by Steve, and by Eddie. And when you talk about the Mount Rushmore of Titans in those early days, it was important to Bud Adams. It was important to the Titans for those three to be honored together. And Kevin, just the legacy that Frank leaves along with those two, certainly hard to put into words.
Yeah, no doubt, Will. I remember being there that night when they honored those three, and to have had a chance to be there and cover those teams during that time frame, and especially the Super Bowl run was really, really cool to be around those guys a little bit. Those were foundational pieces for the Titans. As the Oilers transitioned into the Titans between 1998 and 1999, when they had the unveiling of the uniforms, I remember those were some of the guys that were out there. I know Blaine Bishop was there, and maybe Craig Hentrick. There are a few others, but there were guys from those teams that you'll always remember being there, and those three were right front and center with Bruce Matthews, he was getting toward the end of his career, but he was a Hall of Fame player, maybe the greatest offensive lineman ever. He played all the different positions and was so great at all of it. But yeah, you think of other guys. Javon Curse was another one who was one that really cranked things up in terms of the Titans becoming the team and the beloved team that they were in this area. He was a rookie on that Super Bowl team, and he was a total game changer when they drafted him out of Florida. And he was just a great pass rusher and really a game changer for that defense. Samari Roll, and you think about Derek Mason was on the early part of his career, and Chris Sanders, and I can go down a list. There are lots of guys on those teams, but yeah, Steve and Frank and Eddie from the offensive side for sure were ones that were really the faces of the franchise back during that time.
Kevin Ingram, our guest this morning on Ramon Kayla and Will. Kevin, we can't thank you enough for doing this, for remembering your friend and Nashville's friend, really, in so many ways, and Frank Wycheck this morning. Thank you so much. We appreciate the time.
Hey, glad to. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kev.
Yes, sir. There's Kevin Ingram.